The Syrian Ministry of Defense says Israeli warplanes targeted international airports at Damascus and Aleppo earlier this morning. On Saturday, Israel announced a round of evacuation plans for 14 communities near the border with Lebanon, where we were just talking to Matt Bradley. The fighting there continues to, well, I don't know if it intensifies or it's remaining steady between Hezbollah fighters on the Lebanon side and the Israeli military. Hezbollah's deputy leader warned that Israel would, in his words, pay a high price if it launched a ground offensive into Gaza. On the south, tanks and tens of thousands of Israeli troops continue to gather at the Gaza border in anticipation of a pending ground invasion. The Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu met with his cabinet late Saturday to discuss that planned invasion. A military spokesperson told the Associated Press that Israel planned to step up airstrikes in Gaza in preparation for the, quote, next stages of the war. But for people who have occupied the highest levels of the Israeli government, the current situation is one matter. The long-term prospects for a durable peace is an entirely separate and seemingly intractable matter. While few experts doubt Israel's tactical ability on the ground versus Hamas, avoiding a war with Hezbollah, Iran, and possibly Israel's Arab neighbors is of paramount importance. For more on these developments, I'm joined now by Tzipi Livni. She's the former vice prime minister of Israel and a former foreign minister for her country. Ms. Livni, good to see you again. Thank you, as always, for taking time to be with us. I want to talk about the future because you have been involved at various times in thinking about what the long-term future is for Israel and the Palestinians and the region. We don't know much about, everything I know about what's happening with the potential ground invasion. I've just told our audience. What else is happening? Is there something happening behind the scenes that have longer-term objectives than just Hamas and the hostages?
No, unfortunately not. I mean, Israel needs to continue its attacks in order to dismantle the military power of Hamas. I would like to say a few things also about the situation in Lebanon, Hezbollah and Hamas, and the common denominator between these two groups, because we are speaking about two terrorist organizations that on one hand, they are acting like terrorists. On the other, they have something that is called a political part that is abusing the situation and the fact that they are also using their military power to stay in power. And none is representing the interest of Lebanon, Hezbollah, because this is the proxy of Iran. And Hamas doesn't represent the aspiration of the Palestinians for a state of their own, the legitimate aspiration. And therefore, speaking in long term, and since I believe that the only way to live in peace between Israel and the Palestinians based on the idea of two states for two peoples, Hamas is an obstacle. They are not looking for a Palestinian state. They are not fighting for a Palestinian state. They are fighting against the mere existence of the state of Israel. And if you look at the Palestinian Authority on one side that represent a national conflict, and we have a national conflict with the Palestinians, but yet on Hamas that represent extreme religious ideology, so the interest of those of us on both sides believing in peace between Israel and the Palestinians is to take Hamas off this equation because there is no hope for peace with Hamas. And this is something that needs to be clear.
So the problem is, and Joe Biden alluded to this the other day, and that is America in Afghanistan after 9/11. Let's take you at your word that there's no peace with Hamas. Vacuums don't work, right? So in the end, what happens next? Because as you and I discussed 1 week ago, there has been an effort for a long time to diminish the importance and effectiveness of the Palestinian Authority as a negotiating partner for Israel. But is that viable again? What happens? You get rid of Hamas and you have a whole bunch of people. What happens?
No, and I want to be honest, there is a debate within Israel whether the idea of two states for two peoples is feasible or acceptable, but this is something that Israel needs to decide. But no matter what, Hamas is an obstacle, not because I say so. We don't need to learn the lessons from the U.S. experience. We have our own lessons. And Israel withdrew from Gaza Strip. In 2005, I was minister of this cabinet. We decided to pull out our forces, to dismantle of the settlements. there is no one Israeli soldier within the West Bank, within Gaza Strip since 2006. And Hamas took over and the Palestinian Authority left. And therefore, this is what is left, because all the other military operation in Gaza Strip, one ended with deterrence for a while, the other ended with an agreement with Hamas. But for them, it's not enough. They do not exist, they do not accept our mere existence. And therefore, it's a matter of time. I mean, for now, we are focusing on defending our own citizens. And
right.
After this,
but I know for a fact, just because you and I have talked for years, I know for a fact that you're not somebody who thinks over the next 3 weeks and the next 3 months. You've got to think about the next 3 years and the next 30 years. And when I was on the ground in Israel last week, what does that look like?
And therefore, I think that the entire international community, and including the players in the region, need to think about the day after. It's clear that Hamas shouldn't be the regime in Gaza Strip. Israel doesn't want to reoccupy Gaza Strip. We don't want to control them. And therefore, who's next? Who can control Gaza Strip and be the regime? The Palestinian Authority until now, and I tried to do so also in other military operations, to check with them whether they are strong enough or whether they do want to control Gaza Strip. I mean, it's part of their people who live there. And until now, they were not willing to do so. So it's the role of Egypt, the Palestinian Authority, maybe other stakeholders in the region, maybe the Saudis can also play a role, and to start talking and thinking now about the day after. Because nobody in Israel wants this war in Gaza to be just another round.
Yes, correct.
Rounds and rounds.
I've seen this before.
In the future.
So I guess the question is...
I hope...
I'm sorry to have interrupted you. We have a bit of a delay.
No, I'm sorry that the discussion or the meeting that with President Biden in the region was postponed. And I hope that the U.S. with other stakeholders, including Israel, will start this discussion about the day after. I think it's crucial, because otherwise the options for Israel will be to stay, we don't want to be there, or to, at the end of this war, to pull out our forces and leave a chaos there. And this is something that doesn't serve the interest of Israel or the Palestinians or the region.
So The Guardian is reporting today something that you know from Israeli media, but The Guardian is reporting that former Israeli military, political, and intelligence officials are expressing doubts over the leadership of Benjamin Netanyahu. Some are actively calling for his resignation. We've seen that in newspaper editorials in the last couple of weeks. They're describing the current government as dysfunctional.
Listen, I'm calling for the resignation of Netanyahu for many years now, for different reasons, not only this one. But now in times of war, I am quite happy that part of the opposition joined what is called the war cabinet, because I trust them more than others. Both of them, Gantz and Eisenkot, were chief of staff of Israel, and they represent other views than the extreme part of the current government. So in times of war, sometimes there's a need for unity. But from my perspective, Netanyahu shouldn't be the prime minister of Israel anymore.
Tzipi Livni, thank you for continuing our conversation, and I hope we are at a point where we can talk about the day after fairly soon. Tzipi Livni is the former Israeli vice prime minister.
Thank you.